Alright guys, today we're going to be doing some front brake pads and rotors on a 2011 Chevy Tahoe. Stay tuned. Alright, so the first thing we do is we go ahead, get the vehicle jacked up, supported safely on a jack stand. Next, I'm going to go ahead and remove all 6 of those, pull the center cap off, as well as the lug nuts, remove the wheel. Once you've got your wheel off using a 22mm socket, you're going to want to use a 19mm socket to remove the bottom caliper to bracket bolt. Once you've got that bottom bolt out, you can go ahead and swing the caliper up like this and grab your tool you're going to use to press these pistons back into the caliper to make room for the new pads. The one I use looks like this. It's essentially just a ratchet wrench with 2 brake pad shaped pieces of metal. Sometimes I like to use a brake pad as well to clear up some of that space, but this type of tool should push those in for you. Once you've got your pistons pushed all the way back in, you can go ahead and slide this slide pin right out of the top of the caliper, and you can set your caliper up here, and you can go ahead and pull your 2 brake pads out and go ahead and remove these shims or hardware, whatever you want to call it. So we'll be replacing that. Next thing is you want to remove those 2 bolts, and I believe that those are going to be an 18, but I'll confirm that in just a moment. So those bolts were in fact 18mm. Once you get those removed, you can go ahead and slide the caliper bracket off. They like to put yellow Loctite on these bolts from the factory, so you may need to use a long breaker bar like I did, because my battery is not fully charged, so I had to break this bad boy loose with that. But otherwise, once you get to this point, you can go ahead and hit the rotor with a hammer in a couple spots and it should pull off. There may have been a screw in this one and it was put in wrong, or the rotor was put on wrong to where the hole didn't line up, but in this case I don't have to worry about that screw. Next thing you want to do is go ahead and put your new rotor back on backwards in order to clean off the sticky stuff from the factory. They like to put that on there to protect it from surface rust while it sits on the shelf. Then you can go ahead and flip it 180, spray the other side down, and if you did have a screw, you can go ahead and put that in as well. Now that we've got our new rotor installed, we can go ahead and put our caliper bracket back on using these 18mm bolts and go ahead and tighten them down real good. Once you've got your caliper bracket installed, you can go ahead and remove this bottom slide pin, which that one actually seems stuck, so we might have to remove that differently. But once you get that out, you want to go ahead and wipe it off, just like I've done here to the top one, and you want to put some fresh brake grease on it. Alright, so I was able to get that bottom one out with my impact and a 19mm. Definitely moving much better now after getting it out of there with this. And then I had to use these for some assistance, just kind of grab it and push right about here with my hand while I'm grabbing it, and it was able to eventually slide out. Went ahead and cleaned it up real good with a wire brush, and I greased it up real nice and put it back in there. Once you get to that point, go ahead and do your upper one, and you can slide that right back in there just like that. Make sure that it moves freely as well. Then you can go ahead and put your new hardware and brake pads on. Once you got your hardware and your pads on, you can go ahead and slide this down, and it should slide over. Might take a little more than one hand. Give me a second here. Yep, just needed my extra hand to get it to go and slide down all the way. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and put your caliper bolt back in. Tighten it down up real good as well. Alright, and once you get all finished up, it should look very similar to this. I don't think I mentioned it earlier in the video, but I went ahead and turned the wheel all the way to the right just because it makes it a lot easier to access the bolts on the back of the caliper, especially when you're putting this bad boy back there, because this thing needs some space. So, just a little tip for you guys out there when you're doing brakes. It helps save a lot of time. Once you're done with that, you want to go ahead and pump the brake pedal because it's going to go to the floor a few times. It helps to start the engine, but that way your pistons are coming in full contact with the pads. And you can go ahead and straighten up your wheel and lower it down. Once you've got the wheel lowered down onto the ground, you can go ahead and torque your wheels to 140 foot-pounds. Then you want to put your center cap back on using a 22mm socket by hand. Next, you want to take your jack and your other tools around to the other side of the vehicle and repeat the same procedure. So I've got to the point of removing the rotor on this side, and I've beat the hell out of it on the front side and the back side with a hammer, and usually that's enough to jar it loose and get it off of there. But when that doesn't work, many rotors will have holes in them that you can screw a particular size bolt into, and if you tighten this one a little and then tighten this one a little and then keep going back and forth, it should force the rotor to come off. And I'm just putting a little bit of penetrating oil on there because I would like to reuse these bolts at some point for this in the future, and also because the holes are a little bit rusty on this particular rotor. But for those of you who do not know this trick, it comes in handy quite a bit when the whole hammer trick doesn't work. And don't forget, once you're done, go ahead and pump that brake again, because it is going to go way lower than normal on the first couple times you push it. You can straighten your wheel, put the wheel back on, and you're all finished up. And that's pretty much the end of that one. Hope you guys enjoyed, hope you learned something, and sorry I've been a little slow on my videos lately. I've been working on this one for the Lincoln for you. It's taken a little longer than expected, so definitely stay tuned for that. And otherwise, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you next time.